You're listening to Tech Nest, the Proptech podcast. In each episode, you'll hear from Proptech founders, investors, and industry veterans on how they're using tech to change the way we buy, sell, and invest in real estate. Discover market opportunities, interesting data, growth tactics, and trends driving the industry forward. This isn't just another podcast about making money in real estate. This is about how we live. And now your host, Nate Smoyer.
All right, what an exciting day. I have a returning guest of Tech Nest. He's the CEO of a company called Scout, trustscout.com. They work with real estate agents, helping them personalize their outreach, converting more leads. And, generally, I try not to have too many return guests. It's not that I don't like people coming back. I just like to mix up the variety here. But Drew and his company Scout have really been leaning into leveraging AI, and that's really what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the opportunities, the potentials, and really what's happening with artificial intelligence and how those in real estate, that's if you're owner, operator, manager, maybe you're a broker agent, how should you be thinking about artificial intelligence, different AI tools, capabilities, plugins? We're going to get into that. I'm sure there's someone out there who's going to say, Nate, this wasn't technical enough. And then others are going to say, Nate, maybe this was too technical. Tried to strike a good balance here. I thought Drew did a good job of breaking some things down for us and helping us dig into have a good conversation around the topic. So let's jump in, hear what he has to say. Hey, Drew, welcome to the show.
Hey, Nate, happy to be here.
I'm excited to have you here, and we're going to start off with, we're just going to jump right into it here. I have talked about this in the past, and now what I'm going to do real time while we're on the call here is I'm going to quote and retweet myself. There is a house that is a visual, okay, and everyone knows this house, okay. It's stock imagery, yellow lights coming through, and it's like a rather bluish type house, and it's got a bluish sky around it. And there are several variations of this house, but this house, this particular house, this one house I have seen on so many websites. And before the show started, and Drew kind of, I said I have to give you crap on something here. He gave me permission to bring it up, so I'm bringing it up. We got to stop using this house.
All right,
got to stop using this house. All real estate.
I was going to say, I think I know where you're going with this one, and this house, it's like the bane of your existence, right? It's like that stock image that everybody hates. It's like that template email that everybody gets, right? That blast marketing sucks.
Like the hey, I don't know if you're stuck in a well or you've been eaten by a dinosaur, but just hope you can get back to me. Yeah, like garbage like that is worse than this.
Yeah.
But yeah, there it is. Friendly reminder, please stop it. I'm just letting people know to not use that image no more. It's done. It's been finished. That image is gone. We're going to have fun with this one here. I'm going to set up this interview real quick. Drew has been a long-time supporter of the show. And what I mean by that is, there's a few people that I feel like have genuinely been encouraging, reach out, supportive, and you've done that with the podcast. So first off, on the record, thank you for supporting the show. But you were a previous guest, episode 58. You're an OG. Now you're a Tech Nest alum OG. How does it feel?
We're big supporters. We love Tech Nest over here.
I love it. It honestly, it makes my day. I never thought, when I started the show, I never genuinely believed and thought like, oh, I wonder what this will turn into. It was like, I had to do something. That was basically it. Like I was just taking action of like, we'll see where this goes. No idea the community, that it would create. So like people like yourself, like I feel honored and privileged to both know, but also like to earn your support and have you back on the show. So excited to have you back on. We're going to talk a little bit about we're going to talk about Scout. I was going to call you Trust Scout because I know it's a domain. We're going to talk about Scout, what you guys have been up to, what's new, what's changed, but also some tertiary topics. We got to get into a few other things that are related to what you guys are doing and maybe outside of what you're doing. But maybe we'll start off with this. Fill us in on over the last, it's been almost, what, three years?
I think 3 years. So episode 58, that's when you started growing that beard, right?
There's been several iterations. My beard is just like a startup, you know.
Yeah,
sometimes it goes through a pivot. It's been about 3 years. So fill us in on where Scout was at then and where you guys are at now.
Yeah, so just like the beard, we've grown, we've pivoted. We were, I think back in the day, we were doing algorithmic lead generation for the residential real estate space. It's kind of like HomeLight, right? We'd go out and get leads and give them to real estate agents, and we give them to the best performing ones. And over the last couple of years, we saw the writing on the wall. We saw customer engagement really being kind of like the biggest opportunity there, and it wasn't so much generating the leads, but helping the service providers to actually service the lead, to kind of arm them with the tools and the utility to better engage their customers, right? Just focus on what they needed to do on a day-to-day basis, which is certainly not lead generation. Like if you're really good at what you do in life, you're probably not, you probably don't want to focus on lead generation unless that's what you do for a living. So we kind of built this platform that helps in that space. It helps with a lot of data management, prospecting, targeting, customer engagement. So I guess the one-liner for Scout is we supercharge marketing and sales and customer engagement through AI.
Boom. Easy.
Yeah. Easy.
What does that mean?
So there's three pillars of our platform. There's data, there's content, and there's workflow execution. So it's like, who do I target? What do I say to them? And then how do I actually get this message out? And we handle all three of those things. We kind of we've automated it. We've kind of made it push button. So if you are in the, call it residential real estate space, you own a local retail store, super easy to come on a platform, click a couple of buttons, and we've pinpointed who your likely customer is, and we can have a multi-touch, super personalized engagement campaign running to them in about a minute and a half.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty easy.
Somebody called it, they were like your MailChimp on steroids, your Mail Gorilla.
That could be one way of looking at it. I mean, when you say gorilla, I think of Gorilla Glue. Like it's sticky. So maybe that's the other play there.
I like that. Yeah. I mean, we create a lot of stickiness. We create a lot of customer engagement. Just very personalized messaging. Kind of like the
Okay, so let's go ahead and address the gorilla in the room.
Ooh.
You're saying AI. It's the hot topic right now. And admittedly, I've been riding that train. I've just been asking everybody. People come on the show and they're like, we do paper forms for our product. And I'm like, tell me how you're using AI. Because, for what it's worth, I mean, yeah, it's good for fodder and conversation, right? But honestly, I think it's super relevant to every business. I've really turned the corner of, you use AI, you're special. This is unique. And maybe it's not quite ubiquitous to all businesses yet, but it almost feels like, hey, there's a lot to be considering and thinking and imagining here. So you guys have been using AI for some time. What is it that you're doing that is AI? How are you using AI? And then how are you differentiating from anyone else who simply can, I wouldn't say simply, but to some degree, simply plug and play AI these days?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I mean, let's really think about the ubiquity of AI and how it's going to be everywhere. It's kind of going to be like, do you have a website, right? Where can you find me online? Do you have a website strategy, right? Do you have a mobile strategy? That's going to be what AI is in like a year. And the truth is, with a lot of these new platforms, and especially ChatGPT and OpenAI, they've just made it so incredibly simple. I mean, people who have no business, touching engineering code are now creating apps in like 20 minutes. And and I think at some point, every single company will have to use AI in some form or another. I actually came across just a super intelligent use today. It was just a free chat bot with a couple of prompts on somebody's landing page, and they were offering like PR pitches, like create a free PR pitch. Right? And at the bottom, it was just, put in your email. It was a lead form, right? That's all it was. But they were using ChatGPT as the lead magnet. And I just thought it was super smart. So I think you're going to see a lot of things like that, specific prompt use cases for like, get this here free, just put in your email address and you don't realize it's a lead form at the same time. Now back to how like we've been using it. We've been using it for, over a year plus before everybody was like, what is this open AI stuff?
Before it was cool.
Before it was cool, yeah. Back before it was 3.5. It was like GPT-2. So a couple of things that we do, and it's mostly in the marketing space, like wrapping context and engagement and words around data. So we have like massive data sets, like 300 million people in these data sets, and we create ideal customer profiles around them. And it's our job to make that data actionable, make it usable. Like, I've got all this data. Now what do I do with it? So create marketing campaigns. And the first step for us was to really just create marketing around data. So, we were the prompt engineers behind the scenes who were thinking about prompt construction. And it really is engineering at the end of the day. So figuring out, what does a prompt look like to give you the message that you expect to get back? So it's not talking absolute gibberish, right? And then the next thing that we're doing is it's called entity recognition. So when you
entity recognition. Okay.
So when somebody writes an email back to you, let's say you've now done your part, you've communicated something good to somebody else, and they write back to you. Or is this PG-13 podcast?
I mean, I assume you're over 18. I'm over 18. You can say whatever you want, I suppose.
Okay. Right. So like you send something out to me and I say, "Hey Nate, fuck off." We have to recognize that. We have to understand that, based off of what you said to us, we can then put you down the correct path.
And somewhere there's a study that has shown that 1 in 5 leads that a real estate agent gets that they respond to actually is met with a response such as that.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
It's very frequent.
It's very frequent. It's oh man, this is so funny. And we get a lot of, people give us a hard time because they always ask the question, how do people react when you come through their email box or you come through their text messages? We had an agent the other day take a picture of a postcard that they sent, right? Postcard. And somebody just wrote back, like crossed their name out, like F you, never talk to me again, and sent the postcard back to the agent.
Yep.
Like, wow. That's impressive. But entity recognition, it's basically like sentiment analysis. Is this good? Is this bad? Is this neutral? And then you start to kind of drill down even more, past that. Like what exactly does this person want? What's the next step? What's the next action so that we can trigger some kind of automation or workflow?
Very cool. Yeah. And that's one of the things I'm trying to understand a little bit more about, like, okay, what are all the use cases? What, I don't know if this will air before or after, probably after an interview with Austin Lowe, runs a company called Peak, and we talked about AI. And so they do, virtual tours as one of their service offerings. And, he mentioned like the data they're collecting from virtual tours, that's an input. And what you can do with that is an input. How are you thinking about inputs? Is it just literally, because I think I see a lot of the conversations around like literally typing into a chat interface, but that's one way. What are all the other things that other either startups or engineers should be thinking about as opportunities for generating more relevant and I would just say better inputs that will ultimately yield a better result or outcome or experience for the customer?
That's a great question, especially with the new release of GPT-4. Right, we've got eyes and ears now, so you can start to actually put in sounds. You can start to put in images, and the image will be recognized. And you can kind of go the other way on it. You can either take words and turn them into images, right? Stable diffusion, or you can take images and turn them into words. And in terms of the things that, build a great prompt, it's so use case specific. So you can have emotion, you can have sentiment, you can turn it into a short story. If you want, names, then you need people data. If you want, home addresses, you need parcel data. So, our strategy, it's kind of like a 5-tier strategy. We have lat long, so we do a lot with geo-targeting. We have people data, we have demographic data, we even have, trigger level data. So like, did it rain? So let's say you're like a plumber, right? And that every time it rains, for this amount of precipitation at this temperature, there's gonna be a flash flood, pipes are gonna break, and then you've got to get somebody within like 1 week or even sooner than that. And then there's like, maybe there's some mold remediation like a week and a half later. You've got to time that perfectly. So, AI, it's kind of crazy. You can give it like a set of rules, and you can say, pick out all of the parcels within a subset that may have this issue. And it'll actually drill down based on like the set of rules that you give it. I think, did you see the GPT-4 announcement?
Yeah.
Kind of crazy where they gave it the IRC code and it ripped through it.
Oh, I don't know if I saw the formal announcement. Of course, I saw that it was announced, but no, I did not see the formal announcement.
So in the formal announcement, they fed it part of the IRC, the Internal Revenue Code, and they asked it questions about tax and tax returns. And just by reading, that code, it was able to spit out a personalized recommendation for like how you should file your tax return. It's very cool. But these are things that a lot of people are trying to, train specific models around.
Right. Yeah. So I guess one of the things that I'm trying to determine, and I think a lot of other people maybe as well, it's very easy to hear AI this, AI that, machine learning and large language models, and what are some of the red flags of it's just marketing hype, it's just noise? Because I'm a skeptic right out the gate, which makes it hard to be an early adopter because I don't tend to get hyped up on things too easily. I just think I'm just convinced behind the website, behind the app, there's some marketer hype guy similar to myself in a past life who just wants to hype everything, right? And everything's exciting. Everything is the greatest thing that's ever happened, right? And so I'm just so skeptical of it all. So I'm trying to understand and learn, hey, what are some of the red flags that like, this isn't AI, it's just a engineered Mad Lib, or it's just predictive text to some degree that maybe, I don't know if that's considered AI or not, but what should I be looking for so I don't buy into something that's probably garbage or just a smarter interface?
So let me start off with it's not hype. This is the real deal. And I think that when you really start to learn about its limitations, then you start to understand what it is. And when you've played with it long enough, it's like and I'm totally forgetting the name given to this principle, but it's like you understand, you think you understand everything, and then you start playing with it for a little bit and you realize you know absolutely nothing and the tool sucks, and then once you realize the limitations of it, you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing again. But it's kind of like that inverse bell curve, and in the beginning you're like, wow, this is so cool, right? This is like drafting everything for me. And then you start to pull back the curtain and you realize, man, this is making up a ton of shit. Like, none of this makes sense. It's absolute gibberish. They're quoting things that don't exist. They're giving me hyperlinks that have never been. Like this is a total piece of garbage. And
it's kind of like I saw a video just came like, I don't know if it was going viral or how I saw it or where I saw it. I don't really know, but it was a video of Will Smith eating spaghetti.
Yeah,
like multiple videos of Will Smith eating spaghetti, and it was atrocious. It was actually one of the most disturbing motion graphics I think I've ever seen in my entire life, because of just how it was so bad. It was just so bad.
Have you seen? There's a couple of companies that are doing it. Synthesia is one of them. So it's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. You know the Dunning-Kruger effect?
I thought that was the thing where like you don't realize how dumb you are.
Yeah, basically, and that's like how it is with AI.
Like
you don't realize
you're so dumb you don't recognize that you're dumb.
Yeah. Yeah, but you finally get to a part in like this kind of like.
I have a book with that definition earmarked. It's called The Death of Expertise, and it's literally there's 5 pages of the entire book that are worth reading, and that's basically around that.
Well, one of the beautiful applications of OpenAI or ChatGPT is you can probably just go into OpenAI right now and say, "Hey, give me a summation of this book. All right, give me the upshots of the book." And that is actually an incredible application of it, right? Being able to distill information like really, really simply and kind of get these upshots. So one thing that we're doing, you've got all these frameworks either in business or in sales or like all these books that we've read where, it's hundreds of pages, 200 pages, 300 pages, like, Purple Cow. Right, or you've got Seth Godin's books, or you've got like Aaron Ross Predictable Revenue, or you've got like, I mean, there's so many of them, right? And what we can actually do is train that AI model to act as Seth Godin, David Ogilvy, right, and say, in the style of, give me a framework or give me a sales strategy that would tick all of the boxes here.
So if I'm just using the ChatGPT interface and I'm giving it similar prompts over and over, is that what you mean by train, or is that a whole separate thing? Because I see that terminology being thrown around a lot. Like, I'm going to train the model with my inputs, and I'm kind of thinking about this. I'm like, if there's literally millions of people using the same interface, the training there is pretty unfocused and potentially hazardous. So what does it mean really to be training an AI model?
So training an AI model has to do with a reward system, and there is no real reward system, built into this, quote unquote training in ChatGPT. So you go into ChatGPT and you type in whatever you want, and you're like, bad ChatGPT, try again. Right? It can actually recognize that, and we're laughing, but like that is actually training the system, because it works on a reward model. If you say like bad GPT, right, or like bad OpenAI, it wants to do better. It wants to be more predictable for you.
I did not know that, and I'm going to be working with that now. Okay.
Yeah, so there is this reward system. There's actually an amazing YouTube on it where a guy kind of drills down like the whole entire training model of OpenAI or any kind of LLM for that matter. But in the very beginning, like people had to train the model. And it really has to do with predictability and like what we expect to hear, right? So there were these like major warehouses where people were just sitting there like playing with the model and it would spit it out, and then there was like a ranking system, and you'd be like, yeah, this sounds like, this sounds pretty accurate, or this doesn't sound accurate. This sounds accurate for context. This sounds accurate for, information. This sounds accurate for whatever. And they started training these models. There's like 0 shot, no shot, few shot, and when all these people are playing with OpenAI, they're really not training the model, right?
Right.
They're training kind of like their own history within it, but you can actually build models around it that are totally different. That does not exist in like this, general user interface.
Right. So it's not necessarily like I'm getting my own little bot that I work with in my chat window. I mean, maybe or is that what it is? Like to some degree, I'm getting my own version. There's some like caching of memory or something along those lines, but I'm not necessarily training a model.
Extent. No, but like to a very little, a small extent, you're giving it information. So it'll remember, like if you ask it, who is Nate, right? What is the TechNest podcast? And it has
an answer. It has an answer.
Yeah. So it should. It should. Boom. Because, pre-2021, and that's when all this stuff was trained from, right? 2021, TechNest existed.
That's correct. And it recognized who a top 10 the Proptech podcast was. Now, the challenge is there's not that many of us, so it's pretty easy to make top 10.
But yes, you're number one in our hearts.
I it's one of the reasons I graduated top 10 in my high school class. I mean, there was only 11 of us. I wish I was lying.
Context matters.
I wish I was lying. By the way, I'll also share this out on Twitter. I realize that people can't see my screen here, but I'm gonna talk you through it here. I went to Midjourney.
Yeah, Midjourney is so much fun.
To see if we could get you a better image for your website. And so I went into for those who haven't played around with this, Midjourney. I'm not gonna lie, it was a little intimidating to me because I don't do Discord. I don't understand Discord. I don't Twitch. I don't do any of that stuff. And so you have to create a Discord account, and then you have to join this Discord. And I gave it this prompt, and I just said the front of a single house with single family house with a 2-car and single car attached garage, and the interior lights turned on. That's probably a terrible prompt. I don't know, but it's not terrible. I think the lighting, it could be a little bit brighter. It's a little too dark, so I should have maybe specified daytime. But
yeah, people can't see this, but I want to kind of like describe this. This is like dark and brooding, right? But like also
this is scary.
Forward. Yeah, it kind of looks like it could be an advertisement for like Tesla solar panels.
Yeah, and I've noticed there's also a frequent challenge anytime there's letters or numbers involved, and so it's trying to emulate letters on the house, but it shows up as like unrecognizable characters.
Yeah, so I've recognized that Stable Diffusion is terrible at letters, numbers, and digits, like fingers. Fingers, hands, and toes.
Yeah.
It's so bad at. I always see people with like 3 legs.
Yeah, there's a few of that, and I've seen some of them. You can see here, though. I've got I've generated a few. I've actually done some runners in here. We did an exercise with my team the other day where I had them give me a Mad Lib, and then we used that as our prompt for just as a training of like, hey, let's all learn this together. And of course, I have some other. I did one where I was looking at creating some visuals of a house that needs flood insurance. Spoiler alert, I work at an insurtech company called Obi. And so this was a rental property needing flood insurance. And it's pretty ominous again. It's like really bad, of like not something I want to show to the consumer.
Reminds me of Noah's Ark.
Yeah, this looks like pretty catastrophic, like weird dream-ish world type stuff. Maybe it is. Maybe it's all, hey, this is proof of the simulation. So, Drew, where do we go from here? What are, as a founder who has a company that's leveraging AI, you've been in the game for a minute, you're already using it in real estate. So you're helping like augment a lot of conversations that are happening between agents and their buyers. But of course, there's lots of other applications here. But what other founders need to know if they see, hey, look, I think there's potential for AI in our business? How do we go about making that happen?
So it's interesting. Like, we talked about the ubiquity of AI, and we talked about how prominent it's going to get in every single facet of what you are doing.
Right.
At very minimum, you should be using this as a marketing tool. Right. At maximum, that's the part that scares me a little bit. And I think as a founder, if you're trying to use AI for AI's sake, people are going to see right through it, right? You have to have
Sure.
some sort of utility as a company. You need to bring something to the table that is not just like, hey, I'm creating a cool set of prompts.
Right.
Right?
Like writing like auto writing email is not bad. It's cool, but like what more can we do here than
Yeah,
just
of course.
the initial auto writing of an email?
Yeah, Google's been doing this for years, whether you've recognized it or not. They have their autocomplete. So if you're the founder of a company and you're in AI, don't try to rest on AI for AI's sake, because and then especially as a VC funded company, because a smart VC will look at you and poke the holes through and say what's your true utility. Man, I really don't even know. I've been trying to understand what is the writing on the wall in the AI space for a bit now, and I think you have to create an incredibly defensible moat, and be very crafty about how you're going to do that, especially with new plugins and the ability to access the internet. And this is just in the last couple of months, right? Or actually in the last couple of weeks alone.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, I couldn't agree more that it seems like the progression here, it continues to accelerate as far as, and I think what some of us have been promised that is that it's only going to get faster. It's only going to get better. I mean, that's one of the my perspectives I'm taking on this is like the the image generation, or even your like auto chat fill in and article writing. Like this is as bad as it's going to get.
This is certainly the first inning.
Like if this is your alpha, pretty cool alpha.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. Google is just getting just getting Bard out there, and it's pretty terrible. It's really not, very good, but it's going to get really good really quickly.
Yeah.
And these, you have to remember, these models have only been trained once or twice. They haven't been trained many, many times over, and you haven't brought unique data sets to them, and you haven't made them purpose built. And a lot of these companies that will, as these founders create, new platforms, they're going to have data layers and application layers that sit on top of them, and they're going to be really, really specific.
Yep. Let me ask you this: real estate, especially in residential real estate, over the last few years, there's been a few changes on how you can market and advertise. And a lot of this stems from a pretty gross history. And I say gross not as in like total, I mean disgusting history of bias and prejudice that, to some degree, I mean, I think NAR is finally admitted wrongs, but even in like the early parts of last century, we're still upholding racist policies in how they were selling real estate, talking about neighborhoods and the way that they would use descriptions. And, people think it's really far in the past. 2017, I moved to Nashville, Tennessee. Mm-hmm. I went to look at a rental property, and it turns out, the place first off was pretty dirty. So, I told the real estate agent, I said, I don't think this is good for me. Like, I'm not going to be able to convince my wife to move into this place. But thanks for the tour. And she says, yeah, I was kind of surprised that you'd be looking in this neighborhood. I said, but what do you mean? Like, you don't have a lot of like married couples without kids? She goes, if you look around, you'd understand. It's not really the type of neighborhood for you guys. And I knew what she was inferring. It had a large Spanish population in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So what? Like, I was excited the fact that we had a bodega in Tennessee that I was going to be right down the street from. And like, you don't get that very often. And so, I experienced that. And I was like, if she felt that comfortable, say that. Like, what other actions? So, of course, in my mind, it brings up bias and how we're going to think about bias in any AI model. What do you know about that has been done there, and how much caution, especially if you're in the residential real estate space, should there be taken when considering bias and how that may be introduced to a model of AI, whether it's text or images or however it's being leveraged?
Yeah, really interesting. really interesting to bring up. I mean, you had basically redlining policies that were built into banking guidelines, as early back as, like you say, 2017.
Oh, well, I mean, well, Bank of
public domain.
America, like when was the last time they had to pay out hundreds of millions of bucks? It was within the last decade for still redlining.
I think redlining policies were built in until at least like 2020, 2021, like remnants of them. So yeah, this stuff it's fresh, and there's a lot of bias, and you have to think about like the humans that are training these models. Those humans are biased, and then even us as individuals, every single one of us is biased, consciously or not. We have our biases.
Sure.
It's just it's just nature, and well, it's more nurture than it is nature. Well, let's talk about like residential real estate for a second.
Exactly. Yep.
You've got the FHA guidelines, and you can't say things like, master bedroom. You can't say things like, family, or like young couple, or, walking distance. Like these are very, very, very big no-nos in a listing description. So let's say you're a residential real estate agent, you're building a listing description, and OpenAI has no idea, right? It's like, you don't know what you don't know. You have to be very, very careful, because every single, one of these models was trained, years ago without the guardrails that you need to function on a day-to-day basis. But you as a service professional, or you as a salesperson, you as a human, you have to recognize, how all of this has been built. And it's really just, you call them neural networks, right? What are they? Just data points. There's things that live on the internet. Yeah, it's pulling from like Wikipedia. Is Wikipedia biased? Yeah, ask the person who wrote the article. So, yeah, there's a lot to be scared about.
Well, I mean, we can't just sit in our rooms curled up and terrified. We still have to press on and create and build. And I think that ultimately there's an opportunity here to truly generally deliver a better experience to the customer. I think, one of the things I'm excited to see is not necessarily augmenting real estate agents. And I've gone through a little bit of an evolution of where I see the role of real estate agents in the market. I've both gone from from having been one, to, okay, yeah, there's going to be like a dramatic cut of a lot of them because we're not going to need them because we're going to be so efficient, to, actually, I think the general public really wants someone to hold their hand. I think a large part of the population really wants to go for that walk, and they want someone along the way, even if it's less in person, but they want someone there to lean on. I mean, we have automated tax software to how much of a degree, like to the point of like TurboTax will sign the document for you saying it was prepared by a tax professional.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I still hire a CPA, which costs a lot more.
As do I. Yeah. And it's really timely that you should bring that up, because the court certified a class action today, Moral. I'm not sure if you have been following or heard of this case, but there's a class action against the NAR where they're basically saying like antitrust violation, buyer agent commissions are like a no.
Oh, okay.
And yeah. So this could like severely impact residential real estate.
Wait, that was today? What exactly was released?
They certified the class action today.
So okay. So now that there's a definitive class action lawsuit against the NAR.
Yeah, and I think this has been in the works since like 2019.
Yeah, I mean, I always hear whisperings of like investigation and looking into, but
yeah. So this is 3 years in the making, but now I think it'll start moving very quickly. And people who have been paying buyers fees indirectly, it's the seller that's paying the buyer fee.
Right.
They're saying that this is an antitrust violation. But the case against it is that we need to create some sort of, fair baseline, some kind of parity for a person who may not be, so advantaged as to have the extra cash to pay for, out of pocket buyer agent representation. So like just because I can't afford to, pay somebody to hold my hand through the transaction doesn't mean I should be at a disadvantage versus somebody who does. So, you know, it's a little tangentially touching on that. We want somebody to see these things through for us. We need that warm hug, right?
I don't know if I ever hugged a real estate agent that I was working with. I'm more of a handshake. I'm not a hugger. Even when I was a real estate agent, I'm trying to think if I ever hugged any of my clients, and I'm pretty sure no. Could have. Maybe the first client, I really needed that paycheck, but yeah, no, not on the hugging front.
Maybe a firm pat on the back.
Here's the deal. For those who've ever met me in person, like I'm very good with handshakes. Every once in a while, a hug is fine, but generally, I'm not a hugger. It's not.
I'm gonna come in for it next time I see you. I'm gonna see what happens. See if you dart the other way.
No, I probably won't dart it. I mean, I don't know. I think sometimes a little bit of an awkward hugger. Maybe that's why. I'm afraid of people to see that I feel, so that's what it is. Well, I want to touch on a few things of Scout here before we move on. So, I mean, you guys obviously, like, you've been weathering some choppy waters, and 2023 is shaping up to be no less difficult than last year. What's been, from the agents that you guys are partnering with and working with, what are you hearing from them? And obviously, like, their business doing well depends if they buy other goods and services such as Scout. So, what are you hearing from them, and how should both tech companies selling to agents, but also how should agents be like thinking about proceeding in this year to continue thriving and not just, skirt by?
Yeah, it really depends where you fall on that value stack. Right. And we have, knock on wood, thank God, have been on absolute tear. We've been doubling month over month, all this entire quarter.
Wow.
We've kind of had 2x growth. And when you're in the revenue acceleration game and there's not a lot of revenue to go around, everybody's kind of grasping at straws, right? They'll do anything they can to improve their business. And we spent a lot of time building a tool that can have a massive impact. I was on the phone with one of our customers, I think it was yesterday, and this is the number one team at Compass, by the way. We've been working with them for a couple of months now, and she let me know, hey, we just sold or landed a $4 million listing from Scout, from the first month.
Hey yo, let's go.
Hey, yo, let's go. I was like, it's like, I don't know, 140x ROI. So when people see results, there is always a budget for it. Things get expensive when they can't justify it, when, it's just something that saved them a little bit of time, and everybody starts to cut back on those expenses. So if you are, firmly entrenched and you're solving a real problem that people don't want to deal with, there is always a budget for that. If you are providing real ROI, there is always a budget for that. If you have like a very, cool, nice to have, you're the first thing getting cut.
Yeah, you're not wrong. If it ain't delivering value, if it's not adding up, I mean, runway right now, especially for startups that have burn, I mean, you can't bank on raising another round in the next year.
Yeah, capital markets are in a rough place right now.
Right.
I mean, you're seeing it in the public markets, you're seeing it in the venture sector, you're seeing it in growth. If you're first raising a round, like as a seed stage company or even a pre-seed stage company, you're pretty insulated from it. But the further up the chain you go to your B, to your C, to your D, just prepare for a markdown. Yeah,
and going public is not necessarily an easy route either. So. Going to be a challenging next few years in the startup and scale ups. I mean, I think that a lot of prop tech companies now that I'm familiar with are really truly scale up mode. Let me ask you this. I mean, because I know you're on the investment side too. Do people commonly use scale up? Am I weird for saying that? Because I think that should be used more often, but I've just started using it. I'm going to keep using it.
Just the term scale up?
Well, because we're at OB, right? We're 90 employees.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, we to date, I think the total amount raised is like 13 million. Like I have SOPs for my entire department on everything. Look, and I take this from Peter Lohman on Twitter, and I think he said maybe he took it from someone else. I don't know. I think that's where I got it. But like if it has 3 steps and it takes more than 3 minutes and you do it more than 3 times a month, it needs a process, like a documented process. So I have it for everything. I'm like, is that a startup? That doesn't sound like startup to me.
Yeah, it's incredibly,
we have product market fit.
It's an incredibly well documented startup.
So I'm like, scale up. Scale up needs to be used more. I'm going to make that word more of a thing anyway. A little bit of I digress here. Well, okay, we're gonna move on here, Drew. This has been a really great conversation. I'm glad we took this a little bit of a different angle than usual. And I'm going to bring it back to a segment that you're familiar with. This is called For the Future. For the Future is when I get to ask each guest who comes on the show to give their best predictions based on the following 4 questions. Are you ready to play?
I'm so scared. Let's go.
All right, here we go. Question number 1, what does Scout look like 1 year from now?
1 year from now, we are powering customer engagement for multiple different industries, through email, through text, through Facebook, through LinkedIn, through Discord, really anything.
All right. Number 2, how long until more than 50% of real estate agents are using AI daily?
6 months.
All right, follow up.
Whether they know it or not, I would say
that was my follow up.
Whether they know it or not. So we have a group of 260,000 residential real estate agents that we poll pretty often, sometimes daily. And when we started our wait list, we got 4,000 real estate agents on it in the first couple of months. And one of the questions that we ask in that wait list is are you currently using AI? And, I think roughly 17% of the respondents were using AI. And maybe this is a self-selecting crew because they're already, in our community.
Sure, yeah.
But I think, this is 17% of a cohort that's, it's like a 47-year-old with some college degree. And I think, if... Let's say, what percentage of residential real estate agents do you think are using Canva?
Small.
It's got to be a lot.
No, small? I think it's small.
I feel like it's in their toolbox.
It's got to be, I'm going to say less than 30%.
Okay. So they're using, let's say they're using Canva, they're using LinkedIn, they're using, and not so much LinkedIn, but like Facebook Messenger. If they've got a chatbot on their homepage, they're probably using AI. If they're using Canva, they're probably using AI. If they are using Scout, they're obviously using AI. We had a customer, and I think this was probably we were in alpha launch, so we were just working for people. They didn't even know what we were doing. As long as it worked, they were happy with it. And we saw her post something on Facebook do you guys think I should be using AI? How is it best used? And we were cracking up because you're literally using AI every day through Scout, and you have no idea.
Okay, so straight from NAR here, there's a few. We'll go a few tidbits. I know we're digressing here from For the Future, but I think this is important. The largest expense category for most realtors was vehicle expenses, which was $1,460. Okay, that blows my mind. That's your average, most common expense. And also only $1,400 a year. Either that's just gas, or because I'm pretty sure it costs more to drive than $1,400 a year. Yeah. That's barely $100 a month, or just over $100 a month. So I don't know what kind of car you have $100 payment on, but all right. So that I don't know. I feel like that one's not real, but and then we have 96% use a smartphone. That's cool. Concerning that there's 4% that don't, but whatever. 68% of realtors reported having a website for business use. What?
Yeah, makes sense.
I mean, don't hate me because I just don't think that they're using Canva. They don't even have a website.
But
2 out of 3 have a website.
They're on Facebook and they're on Instagram, right?
Yeah, they don't give percentages of that, but typically they are. And then, the typical realtor was a 56-year-old white female.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what that says. I'm not going to make judgments on that demographic information. I'm just going to put it out there. But the point is, 2 out of 3 don't even have a website. I don't know, man. This is one of those things. I think there's going to be barriers to reaching all of them, but do you even need to? Because the best ones, which is a smaller segment, they're going to realize the advantage, and they're just going to keep doing more deals every year.
Yeah, I mean, we work with the top 60%. Call it. We know. The bottom.
The 2 out of 3 that have a website.
The 2 out of 3 that have a website. The bottom third of residential real estate agents, the ones who don't have a website. And whether or not a residential real estate agent needs a website, I'm not going to opine on that value today because I have, different opinions.
Fair enough.
But they're probably going to be, the 300,000 or 600,000 agents that are not licensed in 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, that's fair. There's a phenomenal interview with, is it Mark King? Is Mark King's the president of Keller Williams? Is that his name? I don't know why I'm spacing on his name, but with Clayton Collins at Housing Wire on the Housing News podcast. Shout out Clayton and HW Media. But he talked about that a little bit of the estimations and what things are looking like. And it's looking rough, except for KW leading the charge in just about everything last year. So, all right.
Yeah, Mark's president over there.
There it is. Number 3 here on For the Future. What's one industry trend you think will continue, but you wish would go away?
AI.
All right. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah, let's leave it at that.
There it is. Last one here on For the Future. What's one thing you believe will dramatically change or fade away in real estate as a result of tech advances?
Wow. Here's the bold prediction.
I'm ready.
I think that, maybe 1/3 of real estate agents will be left in, call it 5 to 7 years.
So 1/3 of agents today will remain as agents.
I think of the total. So we've traditionally seen fluctuations of like 1.3 to 2.3 million real estate agents.
Yeah, it's pretty high right now.
Yeah, pretty high. So, just during like a cyclical market, you're gonna lose like 1/3 of the industry, and then they'll come back during boom times again. But I think in the next boom time, they're not going to come back in the same way. I think that the whole entire industry is moving towards a team dynamic, a process-driven dynamic. I think, a lot of these Proptech companies that have been at it for a bit are going to create such efficiencies around it. And, and also, the information is so much less gated. You have to remember, like in the 70s,
you used to have to go into an office and look at the book.
At the book, yeah. The book was a thing. But now there's much less information asymmetry. If you are feeling brave, you can ask, ChatGPT how to handle a residential real estate transaction. You may get gibberish, but you can feel brave and do it. And I think that consumer expectations as a whole. Nate, how long are you going to wait for somebody to respond to you in today's day and age?
Oh, it really depends on what it is, how much it's worth it, and then if I'm feeling emotional about something or not.
Yeah.
And if we're talking real estate, we're talking housing, we're talking something where the true anxiety of missing out on something is so unfair. I think it's so unfair for anyone to genuinely handle that, and there's so many elements about the transaction that cause that for consumers. The fear, I'm going to miss this house. I'm not going to get this house. This is my one shot.
So how long
I'm not
are you
waiting.
Wait as a consumer?
Less than 5 minutes. Right? No,
less than 5 minutes. But a real estate agent is a human being.
Exactly.
And whether or not you like it, they are a busy human being that really is not very process driven. And, at some point, people are going to figure that out. And there's going to be something that can give you an on demand, answer yes, no. And I think there's going to be, we've been talking about the disintermediation of real estate agents for a long, long time. But I think the technology has never been to a place where it is today that can make that so. And I think over the next 3 to 5 years, 5 to 7, you're really going to start to see it. And that need to feel like you have somebody in your corner walking you through to the transaction. To some extent, I think a bit of the market's going to become a lot more commoditized, and only a certain segment of buyer and seller will really yearn for that, advisory experience.
Got it. All right, Drew, last 3. We're going to move on here so listeners get to know you just a bit better. First one, what are you reading?
Oh, man. What am I not reading right now? I think I just, I'm usually reading like 3 books on branding and sales at a time. And I'm going to have to go to Kaggle over here to tell you. Or Hoopla. Hoopla is my jam.
Is that an app?
Yeah. Yeah, it's this one is brought to me by the San Francisco Public Library.
Oh, nice.
So Donald Miller, Building a Story Brand, just finished
Story
that
brand?
one.
That's behind me on the shelf.
That was really good. Dan Ariely, Predictably Irrational. That one is also really good. And then I'm just starting David Goggins' Never Finished.
Oh yeah. Did you read his first Can't Hurt Me?
No, I didn't. Good.
Can't Hurt Me is it is well, the intro to the book may be triggering for some. It is extraordinarily intense and detailed. So depending on your family trauma history, I'm not saying that I have any, I'm not saying that I don't, but it is intense, very intense.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, good stuff.
What about you? Let's turn the tables.
What am I reading? I've actually been really chewing on weekly Andrew Chen's The Cold Start Problem on network effects. And then I have a pile that you cannot see sitting next to me. There's 2 that I'm considering starting next. I just don't know which one. One is called Running with Purpose. It's about the Brooks running founder. And the other one is Founder Brand from the, I forgot that app. It was one of those chat apps that was like really ubiquitous, and David Gerhardt is the CMO, and I'm not a fan of him at all. And so I'm going to read his book to see why I'm not a fan of him.
I like that. Gotta see
it was recommended me to someone by someone else. I was like, I would never pay for any of his stuff, and then I went and bought his book. So I don't even know why I'm not a fan. I don't think I don't get his style. Nah, I'm good. Yeah. I like to support I support authors. Fund the publishing business. Yeah. All right, here, number 2. Who are you learning from?
Learning from you today. Try to learn from every single person that I come across. I think everybody's got something to say, and everything's got, everyone's got a story to tell. And whether it's a small problem that they have or a large solution, I guess that's kind of my thesis.
You learned we got to get that image changed on the website. All right, last one here. What inspires you, Drew?
What inspires me? Solving hard problems, connecting with people, right? And that's what I think that this world is really all about. It's about those connections that you have either on a daily basis or, the strong connections you keep, the weak connections that you keep, how we impact each other every single day. So that's what keeps me going.
Very cool. Drew, thanks so much for coming back on the show. Appearance number 2. I think that this time we have just had a lot of fun. And that was what we talked about before the show. Hey, let's just have a lot of fun with this one. Hopefully everyone else enjoyed this banter-filled episode, but also learned a thing or two about Scout and what you guys are creating. For those who want to get connected to you or learn more about Scout, where do they go and how do they do that?
I'm on LinkedIn. I am probably blasting you with ads all over Facebook. d@trustscout.com. Feel free to drop me an email.
There it is. All right, man. We'll see you around probably Blueprint.
Yeah, I hope so. I'll see
All
you
right.
there.
Well, I'm planning on Blueprint, so that'll be my one big show this year. So we'll see you then.
Just watch out for me. I'm coming in for a big hug.
Sounds good. We'll catch you.
Thanks, Nate.
Thanks for listening to TechNest, the Proptech podcast. Find all the links and resources mentioned in this episode on technest.io. You can get future episodes delivered to your ears directly by subscribing to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and all other major podcast apps. Follow TechNest on social media to stay up to speed on new developments, resources, and announcements in PropTech. Your support is greatly appreciated. There's 2 ways you can directly support this podcast. Share episodes you find interesting, and then leave a review of the show in the App Store. From Nate and the TechNest team, thanks for listening.